It was a hot summer night in Los Angeles, and the city was alive with energy. People were out on the streets, enjoying the warm weather and the buzzing nightlife. But for one group of criminals, the night was about to take a deadly turn. It all started when a group of 3 men, known for their involvement in organized crime, were driving through the city. They had just left a meeting with their boss, and were discussing their next move. As they turned a corner, they saw a car parked on the side of the road. It was a black SUV, with tinted windows and no license plate. Something about the vehicle seemed suspicious, and the men decided to investigate. As they got closer, they saw a man sitting inside the car. He was slumped over in the driver's seat, his head resting against the steering wheel. It was clear that he was unconscious. Without hesitation, the men opened the car door and pulled the man out onto the pavement. They quickly realized that he was not just unconscious, he was dead. His body was covered in bruises and cuts, and his neck had been broken. The men were shocked by what they had discovered. They knew that this was no ordinary murder. Whoever had killed this man had clearly been skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and had used their training to take him down. As they stood there, staring at the dead man, they heard a car pull up behind them. They turned around to see a police cruiser, with its lights flashing. The officers got out of the car and approached the scene. They immediately recognized the 3 men, and knew that they were involved in organized crime. "What's going on here?" one of the officers asked. "We found this guy dead in his car," one of the men replied. The officers examined the body, and quickly determined that this was no ordinary murder. They could tell that the killer had been skilled in martial arts, and had used their training to take down the victim. The officers knew that they needed to find out who had committed this crime. They questioned the 3 men, but they refused to provide any information. Frustrated, the officers decided to take them in for questioning. They were taken to the station and placed in separate interrogation rooms. As the officers questioned the men, they began to piece together what had happened. It seemed that the victim had been involved in a turf war with another organized crime group. The 3 men had stumbled upon the scene of the crime, and had been caught in the middle. But as the investigation continued, it became clear that there was more to the story. The officers discovered that the victim had been working as an informant for the FBI, and had been gathering evidence against his former associates. The officers realized that this was no ordinary murder, it was a hit. The killer had been sent by the victim's former associates, to eliminate him before he could testify in court. The case became a top priority for the FBI, and they launched a full-scale investigation. They interviewed witnesses, analyzed evidence, and conducted surveillance operations. Their hard work paid off, and they eventually identified the killer, a former member of the victim's organized crime group, who had been hired to carry out the hit. The killer was arrested and charged with murder. During his trial, he admitted to carrying out the hit, and provided information about the organized crime group he had been working for. His testimony led to the arrest and conviction of several high-ranking members of the group, and dealt a major blow to their criminal enterprise. The case became known as one of the most high-profile organized crime cases in the history of the FBI. It showed the agency's determination to take down dangerous criminal organizations, and their commitment to protecting innocent lives. The 3 men who had stumbled